What's wrong with it? Oh. Okay, I'm going to introduce our speaker, then we're going to show a short video that she provided about Smyrna Cares. Susan Neylon worked her way up from a lab rat to vice president of technology for a Future 500 company, starting and ran a certified small women-owned technology development company, successfully ran a campaign and got the mayor of New Smyrna Beach elected, made million-dollar decisions while being on the planning and zoning board in New Smyrna Beach. Her latest passion is helping working families that are in New Smyrna Beach and that are okay until they're not. This might be a police officer, a single mother whose home got flooded during the hurricane, does not have the funds to fix it. It might be the father of four who is barely getting by and then his car breaks down. It could be a family that needs to go from a two-wage earner family to one because a child gets sick. This passion fits well with her skills of starting and running companies, fundraising, and building a business. So she started a new organization, a welcome organization called Smyrna Cares. So we'll watch the video and then Susan will speak with us.
The winds are up to 155 miles per hour.
This is a look at rescue operations at New Smyrna Beach.
There are countless neighborhoods across the region that look just like this, flooded everywhere. The only way to get anywhere is to walk through the water.
October last year was probably one of the roughest months I've ever had in my life.
In the fall of 2022, two historic hurricanes brought devastating storm surges, erosion, and massive inland flooding to New Smyrna Beach, and in the process destroying nearly 1,000 homes.
Overwhelmed is an understatement. It was more of a numb feeling. I felt lost and hopeless. I had to completely rip out floor to ceiling due to the mold that started to grow.
New Smyrna Beach police officer Maggie Deal is used to helping others in times of crisis, but following Hurricane Ian, this single mom was the one who needed help.
I have a really hard time asking for help, you know, being a strong, independent woman.
Officer Deal is just one of many who, through no fault of their own, found themselves in temporary crisis. Enter Smyrna Cares. Inspired by those in need from the hurricane damage, Susan Neylon decided to make a difference.
After the hurricane, I really felt horrible for New Smyrna Beach. We just got through COVID. A lot of the local merchants were suffering, a lot of the older people were suffering. And then Ian comes, knocks out 850 houses, followed by Nicole that knocks out 120 houses. And I just thought something has to happen, something has to change.
Neylon realized there was a greater need beyond hurricane repairs. There was a major gap in the community for working families facing a temporary financial crisis.
The cost of living is very high here. And if something happens, their car breaks down, their home gets beat up in a hurricane, they can't pay their rent because they break an arm. We step in, and for a short period of time, we fix that issue to get them back where they need to be.
Kristen Mazak knows this all too well. She was unable to make ends meet while recovering from a work injury. She contacted Smyrna Cares, which in turn paid her rent.
It felt like an elephant was lifted off my chest because I got really nervous. I've had my house for 3 years and I cut close, but never this close. It was life-saving.
There's an amazing need here. There's a lot of service people that serve our communities, servers that are from restaurants, first responders, teachers. We're getting an amazing amount of teachers, cafeteria workers.
This is an opportunity for those of us who want to do something tangible to give back to those that are struggling.
The city is full of compassion and empathy, and that all of us that do receive the help 100% try to give back where we can, and it is that domino effect. It'll come back around.
We never give money directly to the recipient. We always give it to the landlord, and we always give it to the people fixing the cars, and we do our due diligence.
Let's show the world Smyrna Cares, with neighbors helping neighbors. Smyrna Cares is looking for financial donations in any amount to help our working families in financial crisis. We're looking for corporate sponsors. Help us host or attend fundraising or fundraising events to increase awareness. Share our events on your social media. Donate your talents and time to help our neighbors.
Every dime is going to the recipient except for minor stuff, and they know where their money's going.
New Smyrna Beach is a community that cares.
Neighbors helping neighbors.
Smyrna Cares.
Smyrna Cares.
Smyrna Cares. Neighbors
Helping
neighbors.
Smyrna Cares.
Will you care?
So since that video does an excellent job of really showing what Smyrna Cares is, I'm just going to briefly go through who qualifies, because we are looking for people that are in need. So I got this nifty little card that says when you would be in, who's qualifies. So basically it's people that are 80% of HUD, which can go all the way up to $65,000, $70,000, depending on how many people are. Most of our service workers actually fit in 80%. Our teachers fit in 80% HUD. So don't worry about the finances too much. We're not talking about poor people. We're not talking about the homeless. We're talking about families that you don't even see unless they're doing something for you. So it's those people. They have to live or work in New Smyrna Beach for 9 months, and something has to happen to them. So that could be there's some sort of devastation through a storm. It could be their car breaks down. 50% of what we deal with are people that have medical challenges. So I'll give you some examples. The ICU nurse that is working in Advent Health, all of a sudden she's diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. She has 2 children and both of them are disabled. She can make it on her own. She was making a very decent salary. She actually was above the 80% up. And she gets sick, and the oncologist says to her, you cannot work as a nurse anymore. You will kill yourself. You have to quit. Well, you know how long it takes to get disability in Florida? A very long time. So I said to her, what's your biggest concern? Her biggest concern is now she doesn't have health insurance and she can't afford to pay for it. So it could be the person that works at Publix. Her mother goes and breaks a hip. Now she has to care for her mother. When you don't work, you don't get paid. So 50% of what we deal, even though this video shows very much the hurricane because it was sort of done right after that, is really medical. Another big thing is loss of a job. Now people will find another job, we're sort of blessed. But in the beginning, everybody's right to the edge. A server might bring in $50,000, but their rent could be $2,000. Their car insurance, you guys know what bills look like. So all of a sudden they don't have a job. They'll get another one, but what do you do that first month? What do you do when you're like a headlight with a deer? I mean, it's just, so those are the people we help. And I'll leave this in the back there. Please take as many as you want, and we'll go from there. But this talk is really going to be, actually it matches very good with your covenant and also the beginning video. It's about following your heart, okay? So when I first started, the reason I started, now you know I'm analytical, right? I got a PhD. PhD in chemistry, so usually my head's in it, you know. I don't necessarily lead with my heart. But after seeing Ann, I was told, go do something. So I did. Then TL joined my life, and she decided, let's have a backyard party in Susan's house. And it was a smashing success. She knew how to fundraise, frankly. I had not a clue. So I learned by TL. All of a sudden, the local artists are saying, we want to do something for you. Can we donate art? So at Jane's, we had a fundraiser there. So I had a lot of support from the grassroots community. We raised $100,000 the first year and helped 23 people. So, you know, as I said, I honestly think it was divine led, and I honestly think people came to me because their heart told them to do it. So now you're in a thing, how do you expand it past $100,000? $100,000 sounds like a lot of money, but it really isn't when you're giving out $2,500 at a pop. And particularly if you start having to fix homes, we partner with Habitat, so we give the money and they give the volunteers. But that's an expensive proposition. So how do we expand it? So it was like, I need to spread the word. I need to spread the word past my network, because my network can pay $75 per ticket. They can't drop $150 per ticket. They just can't. That's not who they are. So how do I get to a broader audience? Well, I'm obsessing about it, as I do with everything. And Diane Charles comes knocking on my door. It's like, who the hell are you? She won 13 Emmys. She did that for free, that video. 13 Emmys. Like, you know, you can't get better than that, really. And she knew how to market, so she gave me a lot of guidance. And then she said, you know what? You need to get with Steve Reagan. And it's like, who's Steve Reagan? Oh, he's the grandfather of nonprofits. I said, what? She said, I'm not kidding you. Started like 13 of them. And by the way, one of them was Brad Pitt's. So it's like, okay, perhaps I need to meet this man. And if he can bring Brad along, maybe all my troubles would be over. He didn't bring Brad, unfortunately. But he flew in from Michigan to help me. You know, I mean, this is a guy that runs Brad Pitt's thing. You know, why did he do that? And what he said is, he said, the best way you can make money is by honoring people. So when you honor people, people feel good about it, and it also broadens your network, because if you're honoring Buddy Davenport, for example, everybody that Buddy Davenport's associated with, which is entire freaking town, is going to feel the need to come. So that was a big win. So the third thing that happened that year is TL connected with Nancy Barkley. Nancy Barkley lives over by the yacht club on that Commodore Lane, and she had a party. Now all of a sudden, my network is the yacht club people, who are extremely generous and can afford to plop down $150 per ticket. So again, it was about everybody leading with love. I don't want to give the impression that it's only about the rich. So one guy came up to me, donated blood so he can give me 20 bucks. That's just as important to me as the guy that writes the $5,000 check. And actually, my best volunteers are actually the people we helped, because they walked in those shoes. They know what that looks like. So last year, we raised $290,000, and we helped 72 families. So what do we do this year? This year, we sort of took a step back because the volume that was coming in, we just couldn't handle it with the system we had in place. Like, we were writing it in the back of the napkins. I had people's breast scans on my phone, which, by the way, is not HIPAA compliant. You know, we really had to do something different. So I talked with Monsignor Rossetti. He's owned several charities and started several charities for different Catholic churches. And he said to me, you just need to hire a social worker to put the systems in place. And we did that. So Joy Moody winds up in my lap. She does a fabulous job of putting systems to place. So now we need an intake manager. We got the system, Joy's going away, and I still want it as an all-volunteer organization, so we need an intake manager. So I put a call out on my network, and I get a call from Andy Johnston. Never heard of the guy, just like I never heard of anybody that, besides TL. We had a long-term relationship, but I didn't hear any of these people. So he calls me up. He says, I want that position. I said, well, let's talk about it. Let's go have a coffee. Well, the day that email went to him was the day he had to put his young wife, 64 years old, in a memory care facility. And he said, I lost my job, and I need to do something meaningful. The guy was a CEO of a hospital, for Christ's sake. So we have the systems in place to be able to handle a lot of people. What's happening now is we're really trying to establish partnerships with the church, such as yours, where you're bringing people in. We want to find the right people. We also were partnering with Advent Health. You know, when I said 50% is medical related, well, there's 2 caseworkers that talk to every single person that went into that hospital. So, you know, they're a great source of knowing what their family situation is and do they qualify for our services. The other group we're partnering with is Our Lady Star of the Sea. They give out, this is mind-blowing to me, $60,000 a month for people in need. $60,000, and they get every cent from their parishioners. Because they're a diocese church, their money comes from Rome, so they don't have to pay for the church. They don't have to pay for any of that. So every dime in the collection goes to the local community. I talked to Regis. She says their biggest issue now is a lot of those trailer parks, hedge fund managers took them over because the property is more valuable than the rent. And what they're doing is raising the rent at a very fast rate. So if you had $500 for a lot, you might have to pay $550 in 6 months and $600 in another 6 months. Now, most people that live in those trailer parks are on Social Security that looks like $800 to $900. So we don't service that community, and we get a lot of people like that. So I said, I'll have a deal with you. You take anybody that lost their job, their car broke down, or has a medical thing, we'll take them, as long as they live or work in New Smyrna Beach, and we'll give you the people that are chronically poor. So that's a great example of a partnership. Another great example of a partnership is Cooters Unhooked. I don't know whether you're familiar with it, but they take kids off the street, and I mean, they're a wonderful organization. But they have to leave at 18. And there was one girl, she's like an amazing person, and she got great grades, and she's starting Daytona College in the January, I think it is. And she's going to live on campus when that happens, but she needed a place to stay before that. So what we said is, look, we'll pick up 2 months' rent because there's no point going off to college dead broke, get your feet on the ground until she works, by the way. I mean, she has a full-time job. She's, there's just amazing people out there. So that's another one. The other one we want is one of the big unmet needs, and I don't know how to solve this one, is this 50-50 custody is not a good thing. So what happens is the default is you get 50-50, and then the way they figure out child support is the difference between the 2 incomes, and the person that makes more, there's some sort of formula, and out pops how much money they have to pay in child support. Mother of 3, she works at Publix. Her husband's a lineman. She gets $200 a month. And then he decides not to pay the $200 a month, and then he goes to a hurricane thing. So now he's not watching the kids, because before she was putting in double and triple shifts when they were at his house. So now she's trying to make it on a public salary, and she can only work one shift because she needs to be there when the kids get home. So there's a lot of cases like that. That's a difficult one for us because there's a lot of legal stuff around divorce and separation and stuff like that. But we commit to, if there's any sort of separation or divorce and somebody's destitute, if a child is at risk, we will step in. We also are partnering with the domestic victims unit that's with New Smyrna Beach. So they send people to us. A lot of people, once they're out of the shelter, they have to start another life. And when people ask for 3 months down, they don't have 3 months to put down. So we'll pick up 2 months, and they'll pick up the rent or whatever. So again, I really do think it was led by love, and it wasn't only my love, but it was TL's love, it was Diane Charles' love, it was Steve Reagan's love, it was all the Monsignor Rossetti, Regis Sloan from the Catholic Church. It was just a whole community of love that made it fruitful and successful. So that's really what I want to lead with. Is there any questions? Good. If you have anything, go ahead, TL.
How do you handle single people? Do they have to be a family?
No, we got a lot of older people. Particularly, I forgot to mention, we still partner with Habitat, and they have something called Brush of Kindness, and it's for older people. Generally, most of them are older, and their roof goes in. Now, they're on Social Security. They can't afford a new roof. So we handle those cases. Again, they put in the volunteers. We put in the money for the materials and the cash and stuff. So we handle a lot through them, and I have a feeling the way we're partnering with Regis, we're going to get more and more people coming to us because she does a lot of medical right now and car breaking down. So she can give me those, and I'll give her the other ones. Everybody that comes to us, and I probably should have brought a resource package. I'll send it to Rosa. I have a resource package that gives all the most of the resources in the local area. So the first thing we always do is tell people, stop buying food. You can get 28 free meals in this area, so just stop buying food. So a lot of the donors are like, well, maybe they're double dipping. Well, good. We want them double dipping. It doesn't help to fix it 1 month and then have the same problem the next month because they're only allowed to come once a year to us. And the same with the Catholic Church. They have I don't know what their time frame is, but they have a time frame, and then that's it. And I'm always telling the councils, look, the maximum we give is $2,500 a family. I think you need to encourage them to try to take the maximum because they're just thinking their utility bill isn't paid, but next month it's going to be the rent. It's better to get them whole so they get out of this. They're just thinking of because again, these people really don't want to, this one woman, oh my God, everybody was sobbing with this. So she came in through the domestic violence. She was a single mother. She lived someplace else, I forget where, spoke mostly Spanish, very little English, and she fell in love with a guy and married him, and he brought her to New Smyrna Beach, and she's not here more than 3 months, and then he beats the absolute crap out of her to the point where he's in jail for a very, very long time. And she's in a shelter now. She has to get out of the shelter, and she has 2 teenage boys that are wonderful boys. They never missed a day of school during all of that. And so we meet her, and the boys are there so they can translate for her. And she says, I want you to find me a job. And it's like, well, we don't do that. I can look around, just tell me, what do you want? And I'll look around and spread the word, but that's not our role. I said, we give you money. So she says, I don't need any. And her son says, oh, yes, we do. So it really was heartbroken because most people really don't want to ask.
Where was she from?
She lived in New Smyrna Beach.
I know, but prior to that.
I don't remember. I don't really remember. She spoke very little English. I'm assuming it was a bigger town. You know, this is not a town that necessarily is diverse. So, but you know, I mean, we service everybody. You know, they just have to meet our criteria. We try to get in the west side as much as possible because clearly some of them have some challenges. Yeah, Tia?
How do you prevent scammers?
The first year was horrible. So we had it on the website. That's how people came in. Somebody calls in. So this is a scam. Somebody calls in. They pretend, it's usually a woman, and they start crying on the phone. And so you want to pay their rent or whatever it is. And their landlord is so-and-so. And you just use a PayPal account to do that. So we did that, and then one of the volunteers wrote by, and she said, that address doesn't even exist. So I put $3,000 of my personal money in to make up for the scam. And what was nice about that is it sent a message in a way to the volunteers that we need to be very careful. So we took it off the websites, and now we have an outreach program that TL's part of. So it really is better if we get people recommending people in from the local community because you know they're solid. We also have, we need licenses now. We need a documentation of what their W-2s look like, that sort of stuff. So we got very firm qualifications and ways of checking it out. But I don't think I'll ever use a website as a means of getting people in because that one we found, but they're smarter than we are. And who wants to act like Detective Gadget, really? My volunteers are generally very caring, so one of my donors wanted to be a volunteer. She's a wonderful woman, and she's an engineer, so she's very analytical, which was good. So she says, she calls me up, she says, the family's without electric. I said, yes. She said, we need to pay. I said, that could be true, but you have to qualify them. You have to put them through the process. No, you don't understand. Their electric's turned on. I said, that could be true, but you have to qualify them. So the third call of the day is, I paid it myself. I said, please don't tell anybody that. You're going to have everybody that hasn't paid their utility bill coming to you to personally pay. And that's a huge problem because people come too late to us. Like the eviction notice is there. Once they're evicted, we can't help them because once it's in the court system, there's lawyers involved and everything else. So we can't help them. If they're without utilities and they're coming to us, well, you're going to have to, we process them generally in 5 days. You're going to have to be without utilities for 5 days because or negotiate with the utility company because the utility company partners with us too. Negotiate with them and say that Smyrna Cares is looking over your thing. Generally, they might give you a break, depending on the history of the person. So, it's a very caring community. Clearly, we couldn't raise $290,000. I mean, combined, let's see, 290 and 100. And the first, I did a Christmas thing. That was about 20. So we're talking 300,000 in a little over 2 years. That's not counting this year. So it's a very generous community, but it's also a community. People think Edgewater or Oak Hill, but there's lots of stories here, too. Great. Anything else? Oh, I'm writing a book. So we're going to have a Christmas, and again, that just came to me. It's like, you need to write this book, and it's like, there's no money in books. And it's like, no, you need to write it anyways. So one of the volunteers is really good with ChatGPT. I have no idea. So somehow she's illustrating it by that. And we're going to use it to raise money during the Christmas holidays. So, yes, it's called Shh, Don't Wake Up the Bear, The Adventures of the Fugle. So me and my grandchildren, I always make up stories for them, so I got 1,000 of them. Never illustrated, never published or whatever, but I just thought that one was really good, and it could lead to other ones that don't wake up the bear, the adventures of whatever. So we'll see. Yeah, what I'm going to do for Christmas is whoever donates more than $100 gets a free book. And then I also, the community, I forgot to tell you about the Sugar Mill Girls. Sugar Mill Girls say, we want to have an art fest in Sugar Mill. And I'm like, I did all this work, and it was great because the community was involved, and we made $6,000. A lot of work, though. I said, you're not going to make very much. Oh, we're going to make a lot of money. I'm like, no, whatever. You're doing all the work, so I'm happy. $26,000 they raised. Talk about, egg on my face. So, and again, I didn't ask. They came to me. A golf tournament. There's some sort of golf tournament. Oh, we want to give you the money. It's like, okay. So again, it's about following your heart.
You mentioned Edgewater and Oak Hill. Are they included in this program?
No. What I think should happen, because the Smyrna Beach is a richer community than those two communities. So from a donor standpoint, we have a better donor base than either of them have. I think Port Orange probably has a pretty good donor base, but Edgewater and Oak Hill. What I'd like to do is set up all the systems, because I had to hire a lawyer to figure out the HIPAA thing, and I had to do stuff like it's a real organization, because IRS is very picky. So once I get that system done, I would love for somebody to Edgewater to say, I'd like to do this in Edgewater, and then what we would do is just leverage everything we did and more or less give them a package of this is how you do it. This is how you market it. I can market it through my people just to get it off the ground and let them do it. But people do not, and this is what Steve Reagan said to me, the largest charity used to be United Way, followed by Habitat, and now the largest charities are Stanley Morgan. So everybody is putting their money in these funds, these charitable funds, and then distributing it their way, because they don't want the overhead of a large organization and they don't trust them. So people trust because they see everybody knows Maggie Deal. People see who you're helping, and they know that, my books are open. This year, the overhead was only $13,000. So, that's like insurance, your website, that sort of stuff. Now, having said that, the lawyer and the social worker with $20,000, I didn't put it in overhead because it's a one-shot deal. But that's what I mean. You invest the $20,000. Oak Hill doesn't have to do that now. I just give them the book. This is what you do.
Yeah, I think what you're saying, too, is we don't think of New Smyrna as needy as those other towns. Right?
The challenge I have, a couple challenges. The average salary in Volusia County is like $60,000. That includes people that are executives. So most people are probably in that 20, and let's take old people out of it, because they're on Social Security, and that might be $800 a month. So families, I'm just talking about families now, are generally between $20,000 and $50,000. Anything happens, and they're off the cliff because people don't get in the olden days, if I was sick at work, I get sick days. They don't get them anymore. And it takes so long, like try to get a divorce, and again, I can't really help these people unless a child's involved. It takes a long time for that to come through. In the meantime, that's when you really need it, is in the first couple months, when you're adjusting to a completely different life. So, and of course, just things like the land is so valuable, these people are being pushed off. Now, why I think I attract a good donor base is you can't push off your teachers, you can't push off your first responders, you can't push off your servers. So you will have nobody to take care of you if we don't take care of them when there's challenges.